All right, here we are at a beautiful spring day at Arlington Municipal Airport, or KAWO.
Yep.
And we've got a very interesting aircraft. And just to remind you, this is a VR film. So if you are not viewing with the stupid little goggles, you can actually use your mouse to scroll around and look at this beautiful. We got mountains and forests and all over the place. But actually, bring your attention back here because this is the star of the show, and here to tell you about it is John. So let's go ahead and tell you a little bit about this aircraft.
Hey, so this is called a Zenith 701. It is a light sport category aircraft. First designed in the early 80s. First prototype flew in about 1985, if I remember correctly. Designed by Chris Heinz. Empty weight is 620 pounds. All up gross is registered at 1,150 pounds. It's tricycle gear. It has a interesting few things that we'll go over. Most notably, we've got the slats here. You could call them slots. It depends on if you call them slats or slots, depends on your definition there. But this is a NACA airfoil shape that's defined here, and then there's a cutaway. And as you approach a high alpha, you start getting air that's energized and sent over, so it's really hard to stall the wing.
Yeah. Now, slots in general are not uncommon. You see them in a lot of large airliners, but they tend to pop out during landing speeds. But these are fixed.
These
right?
are absolutely fixed.
Yeah, they're bolted in. They don't come out. And one of the aircraft, the Storch, that this is actually modeled off, which is a World War II German Scout.
Yeah.
Right? Did it have fixed or?
No, the Storch actually did have fixed slots. And they're totally fixed. Mm-hmm. The Storch also shares the full-length flaperons. That's another thing that the Storch also has.
Mm-hmm. And that the flaps are actually connected to the ailerons. And hence the flaperons.
Right.
So let's go ahead and tell the audience here a little about these tires. Tundra tires.
Yeah. So these are 21-inch Aero Classic Slipstream. I think might be the brand of the tire. They're sold as a 21-inch. I'm running them tubeless at about 8 psi, and they actually sit at about 19 inches right now. This was an upgrade option. Typically, the tire that you would have had on a older 701 would be similar to the nose, which was a 16-inch tire, an 800.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that you immediately notice is when you come and touch this tire. I mean, you can see it's squishy. It's very squishy, and that the purpose of the your car tire is about 36 psi, and this is what, 8?
It's probably running about 8, and yeah, and if I just step on it, you can see the tire deform. And in fact, that's what you do for the pre-flight, because the difference between inflated properly and flat really isn't a lot.
And another great aspect of this aircraft is the great all-around visibility. You can see that I think this is an option. For this, the
bubble doors are actually now standard in the kit.
They're now standard? Okay.
It used to be an option. They make a slightly different style of bubble door now, but this is now a standard option for the 701. And what happens is with the old flat pack doors, it was about the same exact cabin width as a Cessna, an early model Cessna 150. And once you add the bubble doors here, you get about 54 inches across, elbow to elbow at the apex of the bubble. It gives you probably 4 inches on each side. It's really nice and comfortable. I mean, we fit in there pretty comfortably side by side, which I would never attempt in a 150.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, that's one of the problems. Me being not so small of a person is, not all the aircraft are accessible to me. All right, and here we are in the aft section of the aircraft, and this is, again, more important features that pretty much, all combined together to make a really interesting aircraft. And it's really interesting because this is a inverted airfoil right here.
It is. On Cubs, it's typically just kind of a flat piece, not much of an airfoil. And then on like a Cessna 150, it's symmetrical, if I remember correctly. But this is a really, really thick piece of airfoil right here. And the idea is that as you get nice, low, and slow, you're generating a lot of down pressure to really pull that tail nice and down so you can get those high angles of attack. And there's even a little secret trick back here. As you approach up and you pull back and pull back and pull back on the stick, we get some VGs.
Yeah, vortice generators right here.
Right.
And that'll help keep the boundary layer here to the surface.
Exactly, and it's just adding just a little bit more of stick back authority on that last second before landing, just around here. And you can see where some mud from off-field landings has kind of showed you where the airflow is, as it kind of streaks on the back.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're these are just bonded on, and these come from the factory as an option, although it's highly recommended now. And then, it's a really big, beefy throw here.
There's a lot of travel on that.
In fact, you can even see, as with just the little bit of wind we have, you can actually see the tail lift and depress as the wind was picking up there. Also up here, you'll notice that there's no vertical stabilizer. You've got this dorsal right here, and then it goes straight back to an all-flying rudder.
Yeah,
and
all-flying rudder means the whole thing moves, not just a little tab in the back.
Yeah, and the rudder is directly linked by these cables, one on each side, all the way down to the rudder pedals in the front office. And then the rudder pedals are linked by push rods to a control horn that's immediately and directly on that nose fork. So what's happening is when the nose wheel is down, it takes a lot of pressure to actually move this. But once I pull the plane down and get it unloaded, you can move that around a lot. And you can see that the whole thing just moves.
Yeah, you can see, when you're moving the rudder, the nose wheel moves because they're linked.
Yeah, it's absolutely linked.
And right here is another important aspect of this aircraft.
Well, there are four important aspects here. So the first thing here is my placard, which designates this as an experimental aviation, experimental kit-built aircraft. I built this plane myself from a kit from the Zenith Aircraft from the Zenith Aircraft Company. It took me 4 years and 3 months, about 1,500 hours or so, to put the plane together from the very first rudder rivet all the way to the first flight.
Yeah, I was checking Zenith's website, and you can buy the rudder. I think it's like an introductory kit for about $375.
Something like that, yeah.
And you basically, it's the materials, not the tools, but the materials to build this, and instructions, and kind of give it a little taste for building your own aircraft, because I don't think a lot of people realize that this is not an uncommon thing.
No.
That you can, get a little room in your garage and build an aircraft.
Yeah, in this case, most of this airplane was built in a single car, no lot line garage inside Seattle. I took a few pictures of just how tight the space was. My wife, God just bless her, she let me pull the door off from the garage into the house, and we had the tail sticking into the house for a little while, so I could have the whole airframe with the engine mounted.
Okay, as our pilot and I are waiting for clearance to take off, I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching so far on this, what's hopefully is a possible YouTube series with various aircraft and flying around in the Pacific Northwest. And of course, to help that out, your comments and suggestions would definitely help that out. And any likes and shares you can give me would also be much appreciated. Now, I just wanted to let you know that if things seemed a little short at the beginning, I did miss a good portion of the cockpit interview section. That is because, like an idiot, I forgot to hit the record button on it. So unfortunately, we're going to do a little bit of a voiceover while we are flying in the Zenith 701. And also in the future, I'm going to be doing better audio quality with wireless microphones, and also record the cockpit so you can actually hear us speaking about some of the maneuvers and some of the flying characteristics we have while we're actually flying. So look forward to that in the future, and without further ado, let's go ahead and take off. Alright, now that we're lined up on the runway ready for takeoff, I want you to notice just how short of a distance this thing does use to take off. If you look in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see the pilot's hand is on what looks like a plunger. That's the throttle. And in a moment, you're going to see him push it all the way into the dash, giving the aircraft full throttle. Brakes are released. Nose gears up. And we're flying. It's that short. Showing off one of the key advantages of the Zenith 701, which is its extremely short takeoff, roll, and landing, which is probably only a few hundred feet, even considering the amount of weight that we're adding to it, compared to that of a normal aircraft of its class, which is about 1,500 feet. And you can definitely see the advantages. The other really nice feature of this aircraft is its really high rate of climb, and if you look off to the side, you can see the steep angle of ascent that we're achieving right now. Our rate of climb is about 900 feet per minute, which is actually very good considering it's only got a 100 horsepower engine and it's having to carry a lot of weight, which is mostly me. Now, as we bank to the left and head out towards the coast to do some maneuvers, I would want you to take a little look around the cockpit and see what you see that's a little bit different. First thing you might notice is the control stick. Instead of being planted into the middle of the dash as is most aircraft this size, it's actually between the pilot and the passenger, and it has a Y configuration in order to allow the pilot and the passenger to use the same control stick equally. And it's another way of saving weight on what is actually a very light aircraft. Here the pilot is banking and initiating a very tight turn, not only showing off the maneuverability of the aircraft, but also a key safety feature. If you're flying in a canyon and there is no way out in front of you, you have to be able to turn within the confines of the canyon, because it's not as easy to go above the canyon as it is sometimes just to turn around. The aircraft can actually make a complete 180 within about the size of a city block, which is actually very impressive considering how fast you're flying. Now, as the pilot banks to the left, look up and out to the left side, and you'll notice that the sunroof is not only just for catching up in your tan during long flights, but is actually quite useful while you're flying in order to be able to see where you're going during a very steep bank like this. Now, if you look to the lower left, you're going to see the pilot slowly pull the throttle out, which is going to set the engine close to idle, and he's also going to start to slowly pull the stick back. These are two things you typically don't want to do in an aircraft because they could lead to a stall or even worse. It's really hard to tell, but right now the aircraft is actually losing altitude very quickly, but still maintaining a high degree of control. Here we're going to be doing a little bit of testing with the flaps, and if you watch the pilot's hands, he's going to be reaching between his legs. Nothing inappropriate, I assure you, but that's where the flap control is located. Watch the wings as he pulls the lap lever, and you can see the flaps come down but also affect the ailerons. So it's in effect a full-length flap across the entire surface of the wing, greatly increasing the lift. Flaps not only lower your speed and increase your lift, but also keeps the nose down so you can see where you're going while you're landing on a final. And here we are on our final leg of the flight, turning downwind on final, lining up to the runway, but you might notice something, we're not quite lined up to the main runway. We're actually going to be doing what this aircraft is built, and that is landing off the runway. So we're going to use the grass as a landing strip. Put those big old Tundra tires to use and show you the rugged ability of this aircraft. and touchdown. Now, surprisingly enough, it's actually softer to land on the grass than it is on the runway. If you really think about it, it kind of makes sense in the fact that grass is softer than asphalt. But anyways, I was expecting a lot rougher landing considering, it was an unprepared surface. But, the big Tundra tires with their 8 psi of pressure really helped soften the landing quite a bit. As we taxi here, I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching my video and remind you that if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, leave them down below in the comments and I will address them as much as I can. I also wanted to thank John for taking me flying and showing off his wonderful Zenith 701. If you find yourself interested in the Zenith 701, you can actually head on over to zenithair.net and order a kit and build it yourself. If you don't have the budget or the garage space to build your own Zenith 701, fear not. I'm actually making a flight simulator version of the Zenith 701 so you can fly it yourself. And that should be ready by the end of 2017.